Yes, you're welcome to the School of Assets Management, the real estate cost section. And I must say that it has been a quite a journey, right? And we spoke um, on a lot during the section one, right? Like I promised, we discussed mainly on how to build a strong financial base, and also like a brief introduction to the real estate sector. So we discussed about investment, discussed about savings, we discussed about how to we discussed on different financial freedom stages. We discussed on active income and passive income, and the reasons why you need to prioritize passive income over the active one, right? And also the reason why you need to also prioritize investments, over savings. We discussed about the wealth creation loop, and we said that the wealth creation loop is not complete without investment, right? So introduction to real estate. Briefly, we talked about the global market, talked about the African real estate market, talked about Nigerian real estate market. Then we now went into Lagos real estate market as the core focus, right? So today it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I used to refer that section two, which is it's going to be the main gist of the course, because this is what is going to open your eyes to how you can begin a career, or how you can begin your journey into real estate investment. Um, you know, so this section is dedicated to only this topic, because it is very very loaded. There are a lot of things you need to know. There are a lot of um, um, a lot of things you need to know, basically, right? So let's go into the course. Let's go proper into the section two. So I welcome you again into the section two real estate course, or under the School of Assets Management. My name still remains Barra Ibrahim, and I'm a real estate investment consultant, and I've been into this for over 3 years now, right? So um, I'm just here to share my little knowledge, like the little knowledge I know, yeah, with you. Right. So let's get into this section proper. Right. So today we're talking about we'll kick off with the section two with forms of harvest. Right. So we talked about real estate. We talked about these types of real estate we have. We discussed that we have residential, industrial, and what else? The commercial real estate. Then we also want to talk about the rates, which is like the stock like form of real estate, right? So today we're talking about the forms of harvests, right? So what from the word harvest, when you hear harvest, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind? When you hear harvest, what comes to your mind? So to, I'd like you to share with me your own definition of harvest in the comment section right now before we go in proper. So what do you know about harvest? What do you understand when you say harvest, right? So I'm waiting on your comments. And also, if you can't hear me, signify so that they can work from it at the back end, right? But it's actually very, very important, you're getting the message, because that's why you are here. So, any form of technical glitch, whether in the audio or in the video, do not hesitate to drop it in the comment section. So, harvests, okay? So, let's go on. Let's go on. Let's go on. So, when we say harvest, harvest simply means like when you reap something, right? When you reap something, that means for you to harvest something, you must have planted, right? So for you to in, in investment also, it means that if you plant in your savings, right, you are expecting you know harvests, right? You are expecting reap from what you planted, right? So likewise, real estate investment, when you plant into it, definitely you harvest from it, right? So these are two forms of harvest in real estate. Uh, the first one is rental income, while second one is capital appreciation. So these are two forms whereby you invest from real estate. It's either from the rent or from the appreciation of the said real estate asset, right? So it's said there that rental income is the money collected by a landlord from a tenant for the use of occupation of the property over a particular period of time. So this can come in form of short term rentals or long term rentals, right? So it's it is the money collected by a landlord, right? So that means for a rental income to surface, there must be a landlord and there must be a tenant, right? So we also talked about capital appreciation, right? And this simply means the increase in value of the property over time. So, for example, you buy a land in a developing area and you waited for like 4 years, for full development to take place, right? The value of the property has drastically increased due to the development, of that particular environment, right? So you'll be selling the land for a higher price, right? So that's simply capital appreciation. So you have invested your real estate investment in the form of capital appreciation. But if you are collecting rent, you are invested, you know, your your investment from source of wealth from a form of rent, right? So there are several factors that actually determines where you can invest if your form of harvest is rental income. So you have to look at the location of the particular place, right? Is it residential friendly? That's if you are going to, collecting residential rent, or is it commercial friendly if you are collecting commercial rent? Commercial rent in the sense that, let's say you have chains of, stores, supermarket, and shop, right? So you collect rent from people that that occupy their business in there. So is the location suitable for commercial purposes? Is the location suitable for residential purpose? For residential purpose, you're looking at school area. You're looking at proximity to conveniences like supermarkets, stores, gyms, and all that. You know, location wise, is it suitable? Is it palatable for either commercial use or residential use? Now, for the inflation, inflation also plays a factor in rent, right? It's said that they add the inflation, they add the rent prices, right? Although there are still some regulatory bodies that comes to also regulate rent, right? It is seen evidently in Lagos, right? I'm not sure about the other locations, right? So they are regulatory bodies, that are regulating rents in Lagos, right? But it might not really seem effective now, but I'm sure that over the next few years, it's going to be very, very stringent, right? So proximity to like I said, this is also synonymous to location, right? Proximity to places that aids the purpose of what you want to use it for. You know, that aids convenience living for residential purpose, that aids business what they call it business growth for commercial purpose, right? So you need to look at the proximity of that area. So accessibility simply means accessibility to one town to the other. Understand? That's simply the infrastructural um, the infrastructural outlook, right? So is it accessible to other towns, right? Because for 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 business growth, you need accessibility to you know other towns and cities because of probably if especially an industrial place that for example like warehousing, you know you need to make sure that it's well accessible to other places too. So for capital appreciation, these are the things that you need to look out for. The urban development simply means what are the kind of development um, projects ongoing in that area, right? You need to ascertain that yet. So same as accessibility explained earlier, proximity also the same thing. So the last one is the demand and supply function. Now, the higher the demand for a particular place, the higher the value increases, right? Is there a high demand for land for either commercial use or residential use there, right? So you need to also ascertain that. So this is just these are basically two forms in which you can invest, your money either in rent or in capital appreciation, right? So like I said earlier on, you might not be actually be involved, in collecting like rent from the property directly, it might be in an indirect form, right? So and that will I'll shed more light to that to this my explain to this my point in the next slide. So now we've looked at the forms of investment, forms of harvest, right? Let's look at the investment strategies, right? So how do you milk land from the honey? You know, how do you milk? So we know that there's an harvest already, but how do we milk? There are several ways you can plant. I think you can plant. I'm looking for a plant that has multiple ways you can plant it. I might not. Okay, it's not nothing is coming to my head, but I know that there are some plants that you can plant. Like there are some produce that you can plant in several ways. Probably you can use region for a particular um, method, and you can also access other methods for it, right? So same as real estate, there are several ways you can plant your seeds and expect proceeds from it, right? So there are several ways you can plant your seeds. So the first one is the real estate development, right? So this is mostly for people that are you know that have the capital to go into it, right? So they are called developers. They either go to places that are developing, buy large parcel of land, and resell to people. So what they do is that they provide these facilities that are needed to, build a residential community for you. So things like drainages, like street lights, like um, gatehouse, like the road access, you know, greenhouse, gym, recreational environment. So what they do is that they provide those facilities for residential conveniences, right? So what they do is that they buy lands from family members, they resell to home like intending homeowners, right? So that's what basically what they do, right? And they are the one also providing those facilities for you. So there's what we call site and service. So it just simply means they provide the site for you, and they also provide the facilities for you. So it's called site and service development. And there's also one that we call only site. What they do is that they only provide the site. They do not go on to provide facilities for you, right? So it can either be a site development or a site and service development. So people that go into this have access to large finance, probably financing from their own personal pockets or financing from financial institutions like banks, mortgage banks, commercial banks. So these are the kind of people that go into them. Now we also have what we call buy and hold. It's also referred to as land banking. So it's like buying and holding a property for a period of time. So you just go to places that are developed Sorry about the breaking transmission. I think you had a downtime in the internet. So yeah, buy and hold, like buy and hold land banking, and so like I said, buying lands in places that are yet to be developed, but they have prospects, to be developed in the future. So holding them for several years and selling. So buy and hold can also be like it can also happen to houses too, right? You buy and rent out for several years, then you can sell for higher profits also in the future, right? So for co-ownership, this one simply it's actually co-ownership simply means co-owning a property with several persons. So probably a property that you cannot originally um, afford to buy before by your own. You can co you can partner with several persons, to co-own property for several years, either if for purpose of earning rental income or any capital appreciation. Yeah. So the next one is the Airbnb or short-term rentals, right? So this is actually building houses, building houses that are that are very very luxurious, and renting out for several like sorry about that. Sorry. For the short term rentals, right? For the short term rentals, this is like I said, building luxurious um, edifices, right? And renting it out for several purposes, like probably just lodging, probably maybe someone is out of their country or out of their hometown, coming down for business purposes, and they need places to stay, right? So they are like alternatives to hotels, right? People do not like the hotel structure anymore. It's just like a room. It's not giving them that homey feel. Right? So people that want to still experience this homey feel away from home, right? So you are in there, you're there to actually what satisfy their need. So you can rent out your buildings in short term basis, right? N- per night. So instead of you charging your tenants annually, you're charging them per night, right? And it changes with locations. For example, we can see short lets in areas like Lekki for over 200K per night. In VI, more higher because that's VI is more eyebrow compared to Lekki. In Ikoyi, very, very high, right? So it depends on locations you site them at, right? So the second one is the second to the last rather is fix and flip. So this simply means buying houses that are dilapidated, that are already in a deteriorating state, right? Then you fix them for you fix the doors, you fix everything that are damaged already. Then you now what you will sell for higher profit. So for example, you buy a building that is dilapidated already for like 250 million. You use maybe 50 million naira to to fix it. So you can sell for that's a total of 300 million. So you can sell for 500 million, depending on your profit analysis and how you want to market it, right? So the last one is long-term rentals. This is familiar to everybody, landlord. I think everybody has passed through the stage of landlord tenant, even though you are currently in your own house, right? So there has been a time that you were a tenant, right? Or probably maybe your dad has an house and you know you inherited it, or your mom has the house, you inherited it, or you left your mom's house to build your own, right? Some people are lucky like that, right? So but I know almost everybody has had that experience of tenancy landlord relationship, so this is simply it. You rent a building for 2 years, a year, you know and there's other longer um I I not like leasing, right? So you can just lease particular property for like maybe 6 years, 6 years at a go like that. So these are ways you can people earn money from real estate. People invest in real estate, so you can just buy a house and rent it out for um, annually basis, or you can just do a lease for 6 years, and they pay money for you, right? They pay money to do rather. So now, what strategy best fits you, right? So you might be asking that, what strategies do I now go for from all the strategies being mentioned, right? So which of these should I now go for, right? Which of these should I now go for? First, you have to consider the type of property you want to to be engaged with. Do you want to go into land banking? Sorry, do you want to buy land, or do you want to buy buy a house, right? So this will now determine which of the strategies you use, right? Definitely, you cannot use what they call it, short-term rental, right? On landed properties, because there's no way you can rent land per night, right? You can't rent land to people per night. It's not done, right? So it's only done on buildings, right? Because the main purpose is that you want to make people that are back on home feel, feel at home. Do you get? So it cannot done, it cannot be done on land, right? It can only be done in houses. So you need to first determine what type of property are you looking to purchase first, right? Secondly, you need to determine your budget, right? Your budget. So what's your budget, right? So, for example, um, probably your budget can only, afford for you to buy land. You can't afford it to buy house yet. So, why don't you just go for buying and holding first? Then, as time goes by, you climb the ladder and you start, constructing buildings for purpose of long term or short term rent. Then the location also matters, right? What location are you looking at, right? So you need to determine what location you are looking at. There's some locations that are fully occupied. There are no lands there anymore. So what's your best bet is buying buildings and renting it out for short term or long term rent, right? So what's your purpose for investment, right? You also need to determine purpose of investment. Do I want to collect rent? Do I want to you know get capital appreciation on it? You have to determine your purpose. So what is your expected return on investment, right? You know, um, each of these strategies actually have different ROIs, right? The development purpose actually gives more money than any of all this, because that this one you are engaging in you know, high capital intensive real estate, right? So your ROI is slated to actually be higher than any of other, you know, all of this, right? Short let so you need to determine your expected return your expected ROI. It also gives you an edge on what to, how to determine what strategies fits you best. Now, the last one is laws of real estate. So this actually differs with locations, right? Uh, so, for example, now there are a lot of taxation that um, goes into what they call it, buildings, right? There are a lot of taxation that goes into buildings, and if you are collecting rent also too, a lot of taxation goes into rent, right? So we have the withholding tax, for also capital appreciation. If you want to sell out to people, there's capital gain tax, right? These are things that you're still going to look at the subsequent slides, right? So you need to also consider real estate laws. You know, would this law favor me? Like, am I okay with this law? You ask questions, so before you delve into um, any of these strategies mentioned. So quickly, let's look at how to access finance to to get real estate, to purchase real estate. So there are several ways you can access finance. The first one is self financing. That is that it means that um, one 100% of the money used in purchasing or investing in particular property is coming from your pocket, from your account. So it means what, that the 100% money needed towards purchase or invest in an investment in real estate assets is coming from your what, from your account. So it can either be done outrightly or in installment, right? So the first one is outright. Outright simply means you are paying at once, right? While the other one is what, you are paying in bits till you over a particular period of time. Agreed between both the buyer and the seller. You understand, or between both the investor and the company that is giving out the investment, right? So um, another way you can finance is debt financing, which simply means financing with debt, financing with borrowed money, right? So that one we'll look at more in the subsequent slides, right? Then the other way you can access finance is through co-ownership. We discussed co-ownership as a strategy here, um, you know, to get the harvest from real estate, right? So simply means, instead of you funding it by yourself, why don't you fund this with a friend, or fund it with someone that you feel that might be a good business partner, right? So this is done mainly on properties that you want to get capital appreciation on, or you want to get what they call it, um, rental income on. So it can be done on properties that are meant for personal use, because there's no use owning a property that two of you will live only if you are spouses, right? You know, only if you are family, and you decide to do that. But it's mainly done on properties that are suited for